Hello, everybody, and welcome to Ask the CEO with Avrohom. Today, I'd like to introduce a very special guest. She is the VP of 5G Core and Cloud Solution and Service Line for Ericsson's Europe and Latin America market area, where she supports digital service operators and their customers with complex cloud transformation projects, including the introduction to 5G technology. It is my pleasure to welcome Inma Rodriguez. Welcome, Inma.
Thank you so much, Avrohom. It's a pleasure to be here and talk to you about this very interesting topic for me.
It totally is very interesting, and it's a pleasure having you. So, Inma, I'm so excited to be speaking with you today because 5G is one of the most talked about technologies in the market, as it's seen as an enabler from smart cities to healthcare, and Ericsson is a global leader in 5G as well as a trusted partner in helping businesses prepare for 5G. What are some of the considerations business executives need to think about before making an investment in 5G technology?
I mean, over the last years, we've seen the evolution of the different mobile technologies and the generations, right? We started with 2G, and making a phone call was like, wow, we can now make a phone call from the mobile, and then an SMS. Then we started browsing in internet, and it was like the big thing in 3G. And with 4G, we got to be streaming videos, and now you can see your favorite Netflix movie on the train together with the rest of the people commuting. And that's what we expect from technology evolution, right? So now when we go into 5G, I think we have to understand that this is not just another generation. This really goes beyond mobile broadband.
It's exponential.
Exactly. It will bring a lot of enterprises as an enabler for their digitalization process. So that's where the difference is. I mean, what we are trying to do in Ericsson is to build, together with the service provider and the enterprises, a good ecosystem so that we can find how the priorities from the business becomes the service needs that they require from the service provider. And, we have so many use cases. We have collected up to 200 use cases in 10 different industries. We're trying with each and every customer that we have, a service provider as our customer, they have the interaction with different enterprises. We have use cases with industries like manufacturing, where, for example, you can have remote troubleshooting over a 5G network, so you don't need to have people operating. Imagine for mining, we also have some trials there, underground troubleshooting of machinery. Different aspects of manufacturing in vehicles, autonomous vehicles, and so on, where we can really make the service provided to the end user much more efficient, and you can also help the enterprises increase their operational efficiency and reduce their costs, right? We have other use cases, one that I especially like, which is with security service, public security services like fire brigades and ambulances, and you can have high resolution video when the paramedics get to you. If you had an accident, there can be a remote doctor just watching your vital signs and being able to give you better care and coordination among the different forces of public security to really solve the problem in a better way, right? So the possibilities for enterprises, for businesses is huge. They just need, I would say what they need is to identify how they want to improve their services, how they want to improve their operations, be more efficient, and then try to discuss with their service provider what is their need they have from their network in order to fulfill those changes they want to do into their businesses.
I really like the way you say that, because when people think about 5G, right, the first thing that comes to mind is the speed, because ultimately it's the backbone. We're increasing the backbone. But when you really think about it, what's really driving this technology is, like you said, it's the application. You have people that are now doing surgery remotely, controlling robots, and they're,
So it's the delay also, right? The delay that we see, that's also a very important aspect to consider. Huh?
Exactly. So, talking about the different Gs, so in many businesses in your market are still on 3G, and in the bigger cities, some of them might already be on 4G. What are your customers struggling with as they prepare for this jump to 5G, and how is Ericsson supporting them?
Okay, in the area where I work specifically is we support the operators, the service providers to change their network architecture. And in that, the first transformation they have gone through is the cloud transformation. So we're talking now that in order to achieve more use cases like the ones we mentioned, we need to have the flexibility in the network to adapt to those changes. So if you need very short latency because it's a surgery, right? It's not the same as what you need to measure your electricity consumption, yeah? Just to give you two examples. So what we are helping the operators with is to transform their networks to be able to reach that flexibility. So when it comes to their struggles that you were asking me, first of all, we've gone through a transition moving into a cloud environment, a telco cloud, which is making the operators use a common infrastructure for all the different services. And the purpose of that has been to reduce their costs. And we have been struggling together with them as the complexity has increased, because the network has to achieve many other things that we didn't have before. So different requirements, geographically more spread, going closer to the end users, that will reduce the latency, and also having a very fast service introduction into the network. So what we've been helping them with is in the integration of all the pieces, the decision about where they need to place the intelligence, the compute, and so on, and being able to provide those services. So we are in the transition with 4G to have more flexible networks in the core. And now with 5G, we're going to another level because they will need to put all these different enterprise use cases together. So that's what, how we're helping them.
Wow. And, so I just learned something new here. It's not about having a more powerful radio transmitter or just a fatter pipe. It's really everything, the entire infrastructure working together that enables this kind of fast speed.
Yes, you need the central infrastructure to be more intelligent, more spread, and more automated, because how fast you can insert one of these use cases, with concepts like network slicing, for example, that depends on how good, how strong, how reliable your core network is. And that's where 5G brings a lot of new demands, and we have to support our customers in doing that transformation.
So, Inma, just for the benefit of our audience, so can you elaborate a little bit on network slicing? What exactly is that?
Network slicing is the capability that we have already today to, let's say, separate different types of traffic so that you don't treat in the same way a remote surgery than a sensor or a mobile broadband connection where you're watching a film just for fun. It will allow the network to be more adaptable to those needs in a way that the enterprises will be able to have a warranted performance, meaning a warranted throughput or a warranted delay, a warranty, whatever it is that they need for their specific use case. And we're evolving towards making that automatic. So the automation will allow that, the service provider will be very fast able to provide you with your use case, and it will adapt. So a certain moment in time, you need a lot of bandwidth because all your information is coming down. There are periods of time it's very quiet, so other users can use it. So it's very much about leveraging on the full capacity of the network to adapt it to your specific use case. So it's a very powerful tool.
It is, yes. And it's really an evolution to the old legacy technology called quality of service that we had in the voice over IP.
Yes, you come from that area.
I come from telecom.
Yes, exactly. And it's very much about, being able to do that very fast and in an automated way. So we are also looking into how to orchestrate all this end-to-end. We have a concept called dynamic orchestration, which consists on the operator being able to manage all this in a very automatic way. Without that, imagine the complexity, every time you have to do it manually to introduce all these things. So we're trying to automate the operations as much as possible to reduce also their OPEX investment at operator side.
And this is really a great example of how AI touches every component of our lives. I mean, right
Yes.
here, right? It's enabling us to scale new complex technologies and merge them all together so that humans don't have to busy themselves with things like managing the different queues of data streams, and let the AI do it, because it could do it much better than we can anyways. And then we focus on the actual surgery, for example.
Yeah, in networks we talk about closed loop automation. So you have automatically information about how the network is performing for you as a user, and we can see your experience in a delay, for example, and the network by itself automatically can take an action and change something in the infrastructure so that your quality improves. So you don't have to pick up the phone anymore and complain, but before that, we will be able to solve it ahead of you. Yeah.
Exactly. Let's move on to the migration process. So, because 5G is such new technology, people might be struggling to visualize how this migration process works. I mean, we just touched upon several new concepts here. There's yes, the speed, there's the backbone, but besides the applications, the infrastructure needs to support it. And, in order for infrastructure to support it, you need things like encryption, you need AI. So there's so many different moving pieces. So it's wonderful that you're actually working with real people who are implementing this technology. So Inma, tell me, who's doing it right? Who's doing a great job implementing 5G, and what kind of new market opportunities are some of these service providers experimenting with?
Yeah, well, I would say that I think the ones that are doing it best are the service providers that have seen they have to go beyond mobile broadband, what we were saying before, beyond connectivity. And as they have already seen that, they are strongly investing in 4G, because many of the use cases we've mentioned, they can already be handled by 4G. 5G will bring more use cases and it will bring more automation, if I may simplify, right?
It'll scale, it'll bring it at greater scale.
Exactly. So they can start now. So I believe the service providers which have already realized that they need to start doing some of that on 4G are the best positioned. Many of them are investing in private networks, so addressing campus networks, discussing with specific industries, depending on the country, depending on what is stronger in your country, starting to establish that ecosystem to be providing the necessary infrastructure and the necessary platform that those enterprises need. And in parallel, they are starting to do trials with us, in many cases, for the new radio and core network that is needed for 5G. So we have several trials ongoing around the world, and testing use cases, understanding what is the business case that they need to implement behind those use cases, and starting to address the different industry verticals, right? So those are, I would say, the ones that are already active in that at this moment, because the next 3-5 years, it will be key. I mean, the role of the service provider is absolutely instrumental for the success of the digital industrialization in the enterprises. So the sooner they start, the more relevant they will be in the value chain, so to say.
Are there any specific operators that might come to mind?
Well, we have a lot of strategic partners in Ericsson. Fortunately, we work with all the tier ones. I'm talking now about my region. So we have the Telefonica, Vodafone, Orange. We work with all of them in 5G. And also we have other customers which are very close to us, which like Telecom Italia, Swisscom, which is a great innovator in their area. So I think it is despite we have seen in the previous years, we had a lot of action in Asia and the US. Now in Europe, we have very good strategic partners to work with when it comes to 5G.
Fantastic. Now, Inma, I know there's an event coming up shortly. It's the SDN NFV World Congress in The Hague, Netherlands. I know you'll be speaking there. What are some of the hot topics at this event?
Well, I think the event itself is about how the status of the art is when it comes to programmable networks and network function virtualization. how really the technology is serving its purpose around the world. At Ericsson, what we are going to focus in is to show where we are in that transition into cloud transformation and NFV. And we will also talk about how the different technologies will support the new use cases. So what 5G is demanding from that cloud infrastructure. We will talk about continuous integration, continuous development. We will talk about edge computing and how that will serve new cases, network slicing that I mentioned earlier, how the different use cases can have their, let's say, service guaranteed end-to-end, and how Ericsson puts that together in being able to provide a good solution for the end customer, so to say. So we will go through where we are now and what are the next things we need to put together into the network to be able to achieve those new use cases.
Wonderful. This is all pretty much what we discussed today. What are all the different pieces that go into making this technology called 5G?
Mm-hmm. Exactly, yes. All the struggles and what is working, what we need to improve, how we are addressing that. So there will be more detail on the technical side on how we are doing this.
Wonderful. Looking forward to that. Inma, this has been a really exciting conversation. How do people connect with you?
You mean from the outside? I guess they can via LinkedIn. I'm not a very active user of social media, sorry to say, because we use a lot of internal tools here at Ericsson, and my contact is mainly directly with the customers, right? But yes, people can, get to me through LinkedIn, of course. I would be happy to expand that contact network, of course.
Wonderful. And I'll post that LinkedIn profile to the show notes, and people can just click on that and reach out to you.
If they are curious, I'm happy to share a little bit more on this.
Awesome. Now, Inma, it's very fortuitous that we're speaking now because we're actually recording this conversation during the month of October, which is known as Global Diversity Awareness Month. So as a woman in tech, do you have any words of wisdom that you'd like to share with the audience?
Well, you see, I think we have progressed so much. This awareness concept has helped so many women that, they thought they were the only ones in a certain situation. I think that awareness has helped the women in situations where they have difficulties to progress in their career, but has also managed to make men more aware of those difficulties that, in the day-to-day you don't really see. So I think we have progressed a lot about that. And honestly, I'm lucky to work in a company, I have to say, Ericsson, that really takes that into consideration. So there's a lot of efforts to give everybody the same opportunities. What concerns me now is about girls, I've been in a couple of schools talking to girls, young girls, teenagers, about why it is good to be a woman working with technology, right? Because the statistics are quite concerning. I mean, if you look into early stages at school, girls and boys, even the girls perform a little bit better in STEM subjects, right? But then when it comes to teenagers, it's only 11% of the girls versus 39% of the boys that want to go into engineering or maths related careers. And I think that's a pity. I don't really understand why. I want to help them see that, this is a very interesting area for women to work with, because, technology needs all points of view. Yeah. So it would be a pity that the next generations don't contribute from that side as much as, we're now getting to contribute, right? So that's what I would say now about the diversity awareness, that it has to go also to the teenagers. And make them see that this is an interesting and attractive career path for them.
Absolutely. Diversity benefits us all because it gives us the different perspectives that different types of people have and enables us to build better technology. Yes,
exactly. And it's good to have different points of view. This is, something I live here every day. I have people from all over the world, and it's really interesting to also hear the diversity in the geographical and cultural aspect, right? That's another additional awareness that is very important as well.
Awesome. Inma, thank you so much for sharing your time and your wisdom. I really enjoyed having you on the show.
Of course, it was a pleasure, and happy to talk to you and also hear your point of view. It was very interesting for me too.